Hey, hi, hello. Welcome to Diana Emerson today. We're listening to Dance with the Devil.
Oh my God! Are you okay?
So much blood. So much blood. November 18th, 2010. Police in Union, New Jersey receive a 911 call from Diane Zaleski's mother, who was with her husband at her daughter's house. Moments later, paramedics are greeted by Diane's family who have converged at the house.
Over here!
Sure. Please, please. There's nothing I can do. She's gone. From the condition of the body, it's clear to first responders that Diane's death was no accident. And law enforcement is immediately called. I'm Detective Henderson. I'm so sorry for your loss. What can we do? Could you please tell me about your daughter's activities earlier today? She was, she was supposed to pick up Debbie and take her to the doctor's. Debbie, who is Debbie? Debbie's our daughter-in-law. She's Diane's sister-in-law.
But she didn't make it to her house.
Diane didn't show up. Debbie got concerned and she called us. And we came over here. Her parents rush over to check on Diane at the gorgeous 3-bedroom home she bought just a few months earlier.
Oh, sweetheart, this house is so you.
Diane had a great relationship with her parents. That's why she moved close enough to be able to go see them all the time.
Congratulations, honey.
Oh, thank you. So excited. I'm going to give this place a lot of personality.
When she entered the room, right away you looked at her because of her smile.
Okay, put the boxes. Go inside. Let's go. Here, Mom.
Thank you, sweetheart.
Diane was very friendly, very outgoing, and she had a wonderful sense of humor, which probably worked well for her at her job as well.
She was a legal secretary. The company she worked for was giving early retirement packages, and she was looking to settle.
Oh, remember these? Yes. You practiced every night.
She really was a homebody and liked to fix up a home.
Here you are.
Single with no kids, Diane had moved into the same town as her brother Ron and sister-in-law Debbie.
I bet the wiring needs to get redone.
Okay, we don't know that.
I'm sure it's no problem, whatever it is. But now, the dream home she worked so hard for has become the scene of her violent murder.
I can't even imagine the horror that they went through in seeing her. I remember thinking about that for the longest time.
I assure you that I'm going to do everything in my power to catch whoever did this to your daughter. How long ago was she found?
About an hour. Her face was a bloody pulp from being beaten so much. She was partially naked. She had one sock on.
Did you get these?
Yeah. No underwear.
Obviously, a lot of stab wounds here and possible assault as well.
She was in a pool of what we determined to be later toilet bowl cleaner in an effort to disguise either what had happened or if there was sexual intercourse. She was douched with toilet bowl cleaner.
Obviously, someone had to be stronger than her. This is probably an act of rage.
All this powder came from the fire extinguisher?
Yeah.
There were footprints which didn't match any of her shoes. We suspected that the killer wore these and then discarded them. It was obvious to us that someone was walking around and it wasn't in their bare feet.
We got a 6-pack with 2 beers missing.
But continued searching fails to turn up the 2 empty bottles, which means one less possible source for the killer's DNA.
What's going on with this pot here?
Investigators also discovered a box of pasta that was on the counter.
Make sure you get a sample of this.
Based on the footprints from the fire extinguisher, it was a meal most likely cooked after the attack, which means someone felt at home enough to cook a meal after slaughtering Diane.
What do we got here?
There was the sink filled up with water, soap, and bleach, and there was remote controls in there, which led them to believe that the killer may have been trying to cover up any evidence.
And upstairs, more signs of the assailant's movements.
In the main hallway next to the master bedroom, we found a slipper mark in the fire extinguisher dust.
And in the master bedroom, they find a series of even more promising clues.
Same footprints from the kitchen. Looks like we have some blood here on the curtain. Maybe he tried to wipe it off. Some blood here on this lamp also.
I got blood droplets on the nightstand too.
Yeah, this guy was everywhere.
With Diane's body found in the basement and blood discovered throughout the house, detectives hope some of it belongs to the killer. The master bathroom only heightens their anticipation of recovering his DNA.
The person took a shower outside of the shower. So there was water all through the bathroom.
The gruesome nature of the attack and the killer's subsequent actions in the house suggest this wasn't a home invasion by a complete stranger.
There was no sign of forced entry. The front door was locked. The back door was locked. The garage doors were locked. We thought she let the person in.
Get a couple of shots of this.
In most cases, when you find someone, who's murdered like this, they know the person. They're inviting them in.
Police start their questioning with Diane's next-door neighbor, who first came to help Diane's father.
Excuse me, ma'am. My name is Detective Henderson. I'm investigating the incident that happened at your neighbor's house.
Yeah, I was there when they found the body.
And did you see anything unusual prior to that?
The neighbor explained she saw 2 children playing at a house across the street earlier in the day.
Had you ever seen them before?
Yeah, I think they were from the neighborhood, but I didn't really get a chance to see them so clearly.
Anything else you can think of?
No, that's it.
If you happen to think of anything else, please do not hesitate to call me.
Police and family then turn to the public for help.
News stories can provide more information to the public that the police and other authorities may not be able to reach.
At this point, we didn't know if it was a he or a she, whether it was black, whether it was white, Spanish, Chinese. We knew nothing. We just knew that the person had a cut somewhere.
The next morning, the autopsy results are in. Diane's time of death was approximately 24 hours before her father found her, giving the killer plenty of time to roam the house.
Stabbed 44 times. She was strangled too?
Yes. There was so much damage done to the body, I couldn't quite figure out the exact cause of death.
It was either a knife, a pair of scissors, maybe even a tool of some sort, like a screwdriver, but it was a particularly gruesome case.
And even though investigators feel Diane was sexually assaulted, the DNA recovered from her rape kit is unusable.
Yeah, well, the toilet bowl cleaner really wrecked her chances of that.
It was like somebody was trying to wash themselves away from the crime scene.
With no shred of anyone else's DNA found on Diane's body, and investigators still waiting for test results from the rest of the house, detectives will have to find another way to lure a killer out of the shadows.
We had to talk to everybody that she knew, and they were all suspects.
New Jersey police, investigating the murder of Diane Zaleski, think the perpetrator may have been someone with access to her home.
Hey, thanks, detective, for arranging.
Diane was working on the house. There's a lot of construction recently.
Before you go, Carl, is there anything that you can tell us about Ms. Zaleski's death?
I mean, I just know she's a nice lady.
Renovations mean easy access for anyone in the six-man crew, starting with foreman Carl Tebow.
I just got done with everything in here, so I'm gonna head down to the basement.
Detectives want to know if there was any bad blood between him or his crew and the murdered homeowner. The foreman gives nothing away, saying the job had gone smoothly.
Before you go, Carl, we just need to get a quick swab from you.
I took DNA samples from anyone who had anything to do with the construction of the house, anybody that had contact with her.
While those samples are sent for comparison to the DNA found at the crime scene, new evidence lands on Detective Henderson's desk.
This is interesting.
What you got?
An analysis of Diane's home computer further confirms that the killer made himself right at home in the hours before Diane's body was discovered.
They found that somebody was attempting to buy a tablet and a computer with Diane's own credit card, but they were rejected.
The buyer didn't put a shipping.
The logic was that if he's buying this high-end stuff, he's going to deliver it to the house so he can see when it gets there, and then he can run out and scoop it up.
The computer records also reflect a shocking internet search.
I find it hard to believe that Diane was into this kind of thing.
They found that the suspect also looked up mother-son pornography on her computer.
It's a disturbing glimpse into the mind of Diane's assailant, but not much help in determining who that person might be. But investigators aren't stalled for long. The blood smears from the crime scene contain both Diane's DNA and the killer's. But when they compare it to all the samples they've collected, it's a complete strikeout.
They do not find any DNA matches, which could indicate that he may not have a criminal record.
Investigators next turn their attention to Diane's social life, starting with the dance studio where she spends several hours a week.
Excuse me. Are you the dance instructor here?
Yes, I am.
We're investigating the murder of one of your students, Diane Zaleski.
Diane?
Yes. Could you tell us where you were last Wednesday?
Here, teaching a class as usual.
On a Thursday, we would have the salsa dance class, and this would be a typical class that Diane would attend.
Diane loved to dance, and I think she was in her zone when she was dancing or moving about in some sort of dance mode.
Lead with your hips. Let them go first. Go forward, forward, back, forward.
Basically, our dance classes were a social network, a dating network.
Do you happen to know of anyone who might have wanted to cause her any harm?
Her dance instructor insists Diane was well-liked and socialized with many members of the class.
With the way she was, being out there and getting involved with dancing, it could have been anybody.
Okay, I'll see you guys next week.
Okay, bye.
But she had one friend, Zach Berdow, who might have become more than that in the months leading up to her death.
Just about broke my ankle. I was wondering if you'd like to go out with me this weekend.
That'd be great.
I'll call you.
Yeah.
You're thinking, well, could we possibly have a murderer in our dance classes?
We'd like to take a look at your class roster, if you don't mind.
I don't know if I'm comfortable with that, giving away people's personal information.
I was hesitant because I knew having police officers asking questions would still create an atmosphere that wasn't conducive for our dance students.
If you prefer, we could come back with a search warrant.
I understand. Look, for Diane, anything, I'll go get it for you. Be right back.
Also, one of our students was murdered. So I told police officers, okay, look, I want to help any way that I can.
Here you go.
Thank you very much.
While her dance partners are tracked down one by one and compelled to give DNA samples, detectives dig into other areas of her personal life.
We checked every possible lead with her contacts in her email.
It turns out Diane had several online dating profiles.
She was interested in eventually settling down and having a husband and family.
Diane dated the most any girl could date. She was well liked by men.
Good luck, guys. Hey, are you Michael?
Must be Diane.
Nice to meet you.
Please have a seat.
Oh, thanks.
She was very attractive. There's no doubt. But her personality really made her very attractive to men. So she dated a lot. But she was never without a guy who was interested in her.
You know what? Let's pretend it's our second date, and then we'll just be more relaxed.
I like that.
And every one of them is a person of interest. Once you see their name and you know they had contact with it, they're of interest to you.
Well, I also like to go hiking.
Did she meet somebody on one of the dating services that turned into a psychopath? We knew nothing.
But a preliminary review of her online connections doesn't generate any strong leads. Then, just days after her death, a friend of Diane's walks into the police station with their best lead yet.
Hello, Miss Gouveia, is it?
Yes. I'm here about Diane. I may know the person who murdered her.
A friend of Diane Zaleski's has come to police with a new potential suspect in her brutal murder.
This is a picture of one of her old boyfriends.
His name is Lou Hubbard, and it's one detectives haven't heard before.
Tell me exactly what you know about him.
Diane had a little tiff with this old boyfriend. There was some kind of riff-raff back and forth.
The friend says the two eventually broke up and moved on.
He was a real charmer, but I never liked him.
To find out about Diane's history with Hubbard, police turn to Diane's brother.
Hey, Ron, what can you tell me about this guy? Ex-boyfriend of Diane's?
More than that. That's Lou Hubbard. He wanted Diane to be Mrs. Lou Hubbard.
Diane and Lou Hubbard met years earlier when she moved into a building he owned, and he began showering her with gifts.
Hey, baby.
Hey.
What are you doing a week from Saturday?
Nothing.
I was thinking we can go see a show in New York and stay at that little hotel we like.
Aww.
He actually asked Diane's father for her hand in marriage years ago.
I'll have to get back to it.
Bye.
But as time went on, tensions between the two grew, and Diane ultimately turned down his proposal.
It's possible that he just disliked her for her not wanting to continue a relationship.
Hubbard may have left Diane's life, but he hasn't gone far.
His family's got a warehouse just a few blocks down the street.
All right, thanks, Ron.
So this guy, Lou, his brother owns a warehouse maybe 500 yards away from where Diane lives.
And when detectives check out Hubbard's story, a big red flag immediately goes flying up.
We found that he was divorced at the time. And the reason he was divorced was he beat his wife. He was sitting on top of her, punching her and choking her to the point where she had a broken eye orbital. If you know anything about an eye orbital, it's probably the strongest bone on your body, and he broke it. That's how badly he beat her.
Mr. Hubbard.
Hello?
I'm Detective Henderson with the New Jersey State Police. Do you know this woman?
No, I don't. Should I? You wouldn't admit to knowing who she was. You know, that heightens your curiosity. It's like, wait a second, why would he be denying that he knows her?
The way we understand it, you wanted to marry her.
I've never even met her before.
We also believe that you were her landlord.
I've had so many tenants over the years. You know how it is.
She rented an apartment from you for a year, and you're still denying you know who she is.
Why don't we have you come down to the station with us, answer a few more questions? You can come voluntarily, or we can issue an arrest warrant.
Sure. Whatever you guys need.
We knew Diane was beaten really severely.
Watch your head.
And this guy severely beat his wife. My partner, he's like, he did it. I know he did it. This guy is going down.
I know you had a history with Diane.
At the station, investigators confront Hubbard about his violent past.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Just about beat your wife to death. It's a matter of public record.
Now I'm going to ask you again. Did you know Diane Zaleski?
Yeah.
Good.
I read that she got killed, but I certainly didn't do it.
With Hubbard finally admitting the truth about his relationship with Diane, investigators requested DNA sample,
Swab, please.
which he provides.
Okay. Can I go?
As detectives wait to see if Hubbard is a DNA match, other lab results are in.
What do you got for me?
How much?
All the people in the dance school gave DNA samples. They were all suspect. And unfortunately, none of them panned out.
What did we miss?
There was a guy that didn't give us a swab.
Yeah. Who was that? There he is.
He was a friend of hers, and he is one of the only people that refused to give us a DNA sample.
We'll pay him a visit.
It's Diane's old dance partner, Zach Burdow. And now his refusal to give up his DNA puts him in the investigators' crosshairs.
There he is. Zach, we're investigating what happened to Diane Zaleski.
Yeah. It was absolutely terrible.
We're just following up on a few loose ends.
Burdow tells police he and Diane had become close, often hanging out together on the weekends.
About a week before she passed, I was over there and had a few beers. I feel like I've earned a drink and I definitely need one, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Beer?
Of course.
To the end of our week.
We had found a 6-pack of beer in her fridge, and 2 beers were out of the 6-pack. He said she bought them, and they drank 2, and that matches the evidence we have in the refrigerator.
And I know that last time we didn't get a chance to get a DNA sample from you.
He says he's not going to give us a DNA sample. So that piques our interest. Okay, you were in the house. You have a legitimate reason for being there. You're her friend.
Why won't you give us a DNA sample? And he just refused.
If you're not willing to cooperate, we can certainly come back with a search warrant.
Zach Burdow's failure to provide a sample has catapulted him to the top of the suspect list. Until a stunning twist upends the entire case.
I think we got him.
Who?
Diane Zaleski's killer.
You normally don't find your victim's family's DNA in underwear next to her dead body. How could it be the brother?
Investigators working the Diane Zaleski murder case make a shocking discovery about the underwear found next to her body at the crime scene.
We just got a hit. Ron Zaleski.
That threw the investigation for a loop.
The source of the sample is Ron Zaleski's semen. Police wonder, was Diane the victim of, or complicit in, an incestuous relationship? That scenario comes with a big motive for murder.
Could her brother possibly have killed her because she was going to reveal the sexual relationship? Mr. Zaleski, I need to ask you a very important question. Why was your DNA on the underwear found at the crime scene? His reaction was utterly shocked.
What's going on?
Ron is outraged at the police suggestion that he had any sexual contact with his sister. And soon after, his wife volunteers her explanation.
Stop. I know what happened.
Debbie says she used to go shopping with Diane, and the women would often buy similar clothing.
And sister-in-law wears Diane size underwear.
She lived with us for a couple of months before she moved in here. So we sometimes did our laundry together. We must have mixed them up.
Even after Diane moved out, she used to do her laundry at Ron's house.
Her theory that she had sex with her husband and that his semen on her underwear then survived being washed before getting mixed up with his sister's clean laundry seems wildly implausible. But the only way to know the truth is to compare it to the killer's DNA from the crime scene.
We assumed the DNA profile for the blood would match the mitochondrial DNA that we would get from the suspect.
Results came in.
Thanks.
What we got?
It's not a match to the blood we have in the house. It was actually his wife's underwear that got mixed up in the laundry.
With that test result, the last hope to solve Diane's murder has evaporated.
I did 98 interviews for this investigation. I took pretty much 96 DNA samples. And unfortunately, none of them panned out.
Weeks turn to months, and still no new leads surface. As the one-year anniversary of Diane Zaleski's murder rolls around, the case is officially cold.
Shoot, it's spilled.
Let's get some napkins.
No, don't get sad. It's fine. Okay. Look, we got it.
Her family was her number one priority. Sundays were always at the family's for dinner. Her parents, they were just so devastated.
Diane was always very warm and friendly, and her life was a life of spirit and a life of happiness. You never want to have to bury your children while you're still alive, but I mean, in a situation such as that, it was beyond horrific. And I would never want to wish that on anybody.
It was upsetting to think that a whole year had passed by and that there were still no real suspects. It made me think that perhaps something, was missed. I wanted justice for her parents more than anything.
So far, all roads have led straight into dead ends.
Yeah. So what do you recommend we do?
We didn't know where to go. We were looking for a new avenue to investigate. You can't just bring in the usual suspects. So we went to the FBI, to their behavioral analysis unit.
We can definitely spread the word again. Get major media, get people talking again.
They wanted us at the year anniversary to do a media blitz, to put out the story again.
All right, we'll do. Thanks.
And maybe add some facts that we hadn't released previously.
You about done?
Yeah, I just want to get enough in here to jog someone's memory.
They urged anybody to reach out to authorities who may have even an inkling of an idea of who the killer may be.
The killer went on her computer and ordered a phone and even an iPad or a computer. The washing machine was used by this person trying to clean up the blood. We publicized this heavily.
It was on TV, in the newspaper.
We also pushed this investigation and the fact that we had an unsolved homicide through social media. The information was out there. But it's like throwing a hook in the ocean. You don't know, if you're going to catch anything.
It takes 6 long months to get a bite, but it could be the big one.
This is Detective Henderson.
I have some info about your murder case. I think I can help you catch the killer.
More than a year after Diane Zaleski was brutally murdered in her own New Jersey home, a woman in Massachusetts could hold the key to solving the crime.
Out of the clear blue sky, we got a call one day. It opened the door for us.
I had online chats with a guy who said he committed a murder.
She was a little hesitant at first, but she said, listen, I'm a stay-at-home mom in Massachusetts. I have a friend online who gave me some details about a crime, and it was a murder, and he said he committed it.
He said that he took a shower afterwards and made himself dinner.
Yes.
Great.
The details she shares with the detective were never publicly released.
Mind if we meet in person? I'd like to get a little additional information from you.
Sure. Anytime.
Great.
Okay. Thank you so much. I'll see you.
He was cleaning himself. He made himself dinner, and he tried to clean the house. We didn't release any of that. She gave that to us. That afternoon, we had tickets to Boston, and we flew up and we spoke to her the next morning.
So, what can you tell me about this guy? Did he give you any other details?
No, nothing. That was it.
Can I take a look?
Of course.
Thank you.
An individual from Union indicated that he had done the horrible thing.
This guy had portrayed himself to be like a thug, a drug dealer thug, so she thought he might have killed somebody in the drug business. She went on the internet, looked up New Jersey murder, DNA, and Diane Zaleski's year anniversary story popped up.
At first, she thought he was making up the whole story, but once she realized that he might be telling the truth, she got scared and went straight to the police.
This is great. How long have the two of you been in communication?
Several months.
And did he give you his name?
No, he never did.
I'm going to have to borrow this and take it back to our lab ASAP.
That's fine. That's fine, yeah.
I'm going to get this back to you as soon as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Police retraced his digital footsteps and pieced together the identity of this mystery man.
Guys, I got it. Arnell Yearwood.
run through the database.
I'm on it.
Turns out the 24-year-old doesn't have a rap sheet, but a simple name search through local records yields a hit.
Well, look, he had a job as a laborer putting in rugs for a rug company.
They also find a list of locations for Arnell Yearwood, and one house he used for a mailing address stands out.
One of his previous addresses was directly across the street from Diane.
We'll be back.
Arnell is the son of Diane's neighbor and would routinely be at the house across the street where a witness saw two boys playing the morning of Diane's murder. Now, investigators realize one of them probably wasn't a child at all.
I think this is our guy.
Turns out to be, he's 5'1", real skinny, but his 13-year-old nephew was just as tall as he was. So he's one of the children that the neighbor said she had seen across the street.
All right, let's go. Arnell Yearwood?
Yeah.
I'd like to ask you a few questions down the station. You mind coming with us?
Let's go ahead and put you in the back of the car, okay? Watch your head, okay?
At the station, investigators attempt to build a rapport with Yearwood.
He hadn't eaten anything all day, and this is the evening sometime.
Go ahead. I got it for you. We really just want to know one thing. What happened to Diane?
She was your neighbor, right?
Arnell Yearwood waived his Miranda rights. He said he'll talk to us.
She was a real nice lady, Miss Diane. I know she's dead, but I didn't do it.
He gave us a DNA sample.
Knowing the results could crack their case wide open,
Open your mouth, sir.
a rush is put on the test.
We call our scientist, who's at her family's house in Baltimore, Maryland, for the Easter weekend. She drops what she's doing, drives home Easter Sunday, and processes the DNA that Arnell Yearwood graciously gave us.
The extra effort proves to be well worth it.
By 7 o'clock that night, it was a DNA match, and we charged him that night with murder.
All right, Arnell, we know you did it. So just tell us what happened.
Diane and my mom live in the same neighborhood. And I'd see Diane from time to time, and I'd say hi.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Great.
You know, if someone came to the door, she would say, "Come on in, you know, have a glass of wine," or something like that.
Doing all sorts of stuff. I'm really excited to make it my own.
Oh, yeah, this is bigger than I thought.
It bothered me that it happened at her home.
Well, come check out the rest.
He says, after meeting Diane once or twice with his mother, he developed an infatuation with Diane.
I went to visit my mom that day. And that day, there was renovations going on in her house. All I did was stop in to see how the renovations were going.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, I heard the renovations were finished?
Yeah.
Once inside her house, he couldn't control himself.
He knew what he was doing. He dragged her down the stairs.
Arnell doesn't admit to raping Diane. Tests were inconclusive due to the toilet bowl cleaner. But it is clear she put up a formidable fight.
So he snapped and he grabbed whatever he could, whatever was handy, which was what he said, a pair of scissors. And he started stabbing her. Over and over and over. He obviously knew he wanted to kill her. When he realized he killed her, then he had the presence of mind to try to cover it up with the fire extinguisher, with the cleaning product.
But he didn't leave the house. After living at his mother's just across the street, he knew Diane didn't get many visitors. So Arnell stuck around for a few hours and tried to get even more from Diane.
He also had the presence of mind to make himself something to eat. He spent a considerable amount of time there. So, yeah, he knew what he was doing.
Diane was a true victim. In this job, there are not many true victims. Diane was in her home. She was savagely murdered. For what? Arnell pled guilty to murder, to homicide. He got 30 years flat, which means he has to do 30 years. He was 29 years old when he was sentenced.
He will not be released. He'll be transported back to Trinidad, where he's from, and then they'll have to deal with him.
Diane's parents passed before the trial, and they probably look down today and probably say, hey, justice was served.
Diane was a person that brought so much life into the world, and this person obviously was an evil person.
Hopefully he'll be dead before his term is out, and maybe God will be good and take care of him the right way. He's a brutal murderer.
There's some peace of mind in that, knowing that the person who did do this will suffer and will be punished. Part of me wanted him to serve life. I just wanted him to give his life because he took her life. I'll always remember Diane's laugh. She loved life. The only thing that brought us some kind of comfort was that we knew that when it happened, God took her right away.
When I think of Diane now, I think about where she would be today. Married, happy, and dancing.
We always talked about how when we got older, we retired, that we were going to do this and do that. And, I'm not going to have that. And I'll never have a friend again like Diane. She was an angel.